This is an instrument I invented. It has straws held together by an acrylic frame made out of laser-cut acrylic, and it's held in between the knees, as you can see. I didn't initially intend for it to be played that way, but it works really well played like that. And basically it works kind of like a kalimba in how the sound is, or basically the action that makes the sound, you pluck it. But it's different in how the sound resonates. Instead of a kalimba where you have metal parts that vibrate and they bend and they basically act as like torsional, well, not torsional, but they act as springs, and when they vibrate they make sound. Instead, this has the air vibrating, so acoustically it's a little more like a pan flute where the air is resonating. So technically this could be considered an aerophone if you're classifying the instruments in terms of resonating parts, but it's also a bit of a lamellophone, I believe it's called, or just a general idiophone. So yeah. And it is in tune with an actual instrument. The individual parts, the straws, I had to cut to a specific length, and I had to cut the ends so that I'd be in this kind of I don't know what you'd call this shape, but basically on this side there's a V-shaped kind of hole, and that makes it easier for it to bend and make the note. Also, to make sure that it doesn't like split in the middle, I kind of had to bend it along that side so that when it bends down, it bends in kind of a V, so that that kind of distributes the pressure along the rest of the area. And basically, to figure out what lengths all of these should be, I took some of these, cut them to specific lengths in centimeters, not imperial units, and I used a tuner, like a tuner app, a tuning app for like pianos and guitars and stuff, to get the exact frequency of it. And then I plotted that frequency on a graph. And for tubes like this, the frequency will be inversely proportional to the length plus some amount. So if you take the length plus some amount and then you invert it, you get the frequency. So I measured a bunch of them and recorded the sound, and then I plotted them in Grapher on my computer, and then I essentially found the curve that best fits this. This was good enough to get pretty good tuning, and I hope it isn't too affected by altitude, because, yeah. So I am not going to put that part online because that shows where I live. So yeah, it's pretty easy to play, and you know, the keys are arranged just like a keyboard, but I chose to make what usually are black keys white, and what are usually white keys black, or well, I decided to make the black keys lighter than the white keys, similar to how old harpsichords are colored. So I just like the way it looks. One thing that I would change is that these edges are kind of sharp, because I didn't expect that it would be played by holding it between the knees. I just made it sharp edges, but it would have been way better to make them round. I could still make them round by, you know, putting them into the laser cutter again, but I don't feel like disassembling this and putting it together again. It's actually technically kind of all held together by friction. I measured, you know, the exact diameter of these, and I think I made it slightly smaller because there are these notches, so if I put it in, it's fine. If it's slightly smaller, it'll just poke out of the notches a little bit. So it's a really good, like, friction fit. Of course, some are looser than others, probably just, you know, differences in, like, the way the laser cut or the straws. But yeah, I think it's a nice design. I could glue them in place, but I'm kind of split between, like, eventually rounding off the edges or not, so I don't want it to be, like, unable to disassemble it. Also, these haven't split yet, but other, like, when I was planning out the idea with extra straws like this, some of them have split. So if I need to replace them, I want that to be easy. I could also make it so that only the plexiglass parts are, like, glued onto another plexiglass part, and that could be, like, the base of the instrument. Also, this isn't very loud, so I was thinking that I could have some sort of resonator. I mean, these are all already kind of essentially resonators themselves. You know, like on a vibraphone, you have those pipes underneath. This is essentially like those pipes themselves. But I was thinking maybe I could have, like, a box resonator. I could also try, like, contact microphones or, you know, piezo microphones, but I wouldn't know where to place it. Like, I don't know if you could just place it anywhere. And because I'm pushing on it, it's because it's kind of an idiophone. That means that the sound of me doing this would be very loud. Like the sound of actually pressing on the thing and having it pluck. But I'm not sure how loud the actual sound is, because only the air is making the sound, only the air is actually resonating at the pitch. The actual area of the straw that I'm plucking isn't. So, yeah. And that's pretty much it.